And we're sure that Albert can give us more insight, and then we can move forward from there. So Albert, please, the floor is all yours. Tell us what you know, and we'll move from there.
Okay, what I know so far, and maybe for people who haven't been on with the whole qualifying process. So the last window of the FIBA qualifiers was supposed to happen, or happened a few weeks ago in February. And that was from 18th to 21st. And what happened was that there were two groups where there were some games that were not played. One was the group with Cameroon, Equatorial Guinea, and them. And Equatorial Guinea arrived late on the day of tip-off, and they did a test, as everyone does, for you to get into the bubble. And the test results could not get back in time for tip-off. So that game was postponed, and FIBA decided that Equatorial Guinea made an infringement of the rules by arriving late and not giving FIBA enough time to process a test and results by the time of tip-off. So their decision was that Guinea forfeits the game and Cameroon get the points, and as such, Equatorial Guinea could not qualify for AfroBasket. That gave the slot to the other Guinea, the one people usually call Guinea-Conakry. So that's in that group. The other group, which has the three of us on this show, and I'd like to say Karabani as well, because we are in for East Africa. The other group is Group E, and Group E has Uganda, Cape Verde, Morocco, and Egypt. That group did tip off in Tunisia, but only games between Morocco, Cape Verde, and Egypt were played. Uganda could not play because we had some positive tests for COVID-19, a lot of positive tests. And while we were ready to play up until 1 hour before tip-off, we actually got an email from FIBA about an hour or an hour and 10 minutes before tip-off, when we were going to enter the bus to drive to the stadium, because the stadium is about 10 minutes drive from the hotel. So you're supposed to be there 1 hour before. So about an hour and 10 minutes before we left the hotel, FIBA sends us an email and says, because of the cases that have been discovered in your team, you cannot be allowed to participate in the tournament right now, because of the fear that while you have 6 players available to play, the 6 players might also end up turning up positive later in the tournament. And so allowing you to get on the court with your opponents and the referees might mean that 1 or 2 of your people have it and they affect the rest of the tournament. So we were ready, even though we had less players, because it's the onus is on you to put players on the court, but this is a pandemic and there's nothing you can do about it. So if you have 6 players, Cape Verde had a short-handed squad in the last tournament. Even though Ivan keeps saying there were 7 players, I don't think there were 7 players. I think there were 9 players. You just decided to bench the other guy. So the short-handedness of our team notwithstanding, we were ready to play. We had 6 cleared players ready to play. The 7th guy had tested negative that day, but he had to take a second test the next day to prove that the first negative wasn't false. So eventually we would have 7 players. But on the day of tip-off, we had 6 cleared players, and we were ready to go ahead with them and play. Only for FIBA to send us a letter and say, your game has been postponed, you cannot play tonight, and you need to find ways. They actually said the best way possible to leave the bubble as soon as you can. So we left, couldn't play our games, we started our exit, and only the negative members of the delegation, of course, could be able to get flights. So we started getting flights out of Tunisia 2 days later, and here we are. So we've been waiting for a decision from FIBA. The decision did come, and FIBA decided that the games from our group will be replayed in a period between June 15th to July 15th at a venue and a time that's agreeable between the 4 participating teams. That's where we are.
Wow. All right, El Conda, you want to jump in?
Oh, that's crazy though. Just sorry for you guys for having all that many positive COVIDs in there. We actually went through the same situation when we were in Egypt the other time. We had some players came inconclusive and positive, even though these same players that came positive and inconclusive had already contracted COVID, 2 months
previously.
prior. Yeah, 2 months prior to this qualifiers, and they still wouldn't allow them to get out of the room. So we actually played it short-handed in Egypt, and that's why we had 7 to 9 players. So my quick question is, this whole situation is unfortunate for Uganda, but I want to see where this is gonna go, because so what happens next if a team tests positive before the bubble in the next tournament? So we play in June or July, and so what if a team tests positive and don't have enough players to come in that bubble come June or July? What is FIBA gonna do?
And it's something. Last night when we were exchanging comments on the post on Instagram, it's something I actually forgot to tell you. That night, after they sent us an email and said we couldn't play, I went into all the rules and the do's and the don'ts of the COVID protocols. It's a document that has about 21 pages. And whoever sat down to put together that document or the meeting of FIBA that made the whole protocol, they forgot to take care of one situation. A situation where you have a team like ours that enters the bubble and have so many cases that they can't be allowed to play. What happens in that situation? For all the provisions they provided for, the one thing they didn't provide for is what if a team gets really sick, and all the guys, and we were lucky. Thank God we were not sick, but it was guys who were asymptomatic but tested positive. So they did not provide, FIBA did not provide for a situation where the team has so many cases that now it becomes an issue of, do we remove them in order to protect the rest of the tournament? Once we remove them, what happens to their games? Or what happens to the games they are supposed to play against the other teams? Because, let's face it, now Morocco and Egypt and Cape Verde have to face the cost of playing Uganda. Just because I'm the team manager of Uganda doesn't take me away from the fact that teams now have to face a double expense that they didn't plan for. This money is not easy to come by. The inconvenience is not easy to come by. These players had vacations scheduled and whatever, and they have to turn it around. Ours too have to turn it around, and we have to face the government now to beg for money. Believe me, it's not going to be easy. It's going to be very difficult.
Yes.
So as difficult as it is on our end, and as relieved as we are that we get a second shot at the cherry, we know what the other federations have to go through. But because of that, on that night when they sent us the letter, I read through the provision, and there is nothing. They left, in law they call it a lacuna or a vacuum. They left a vacuum on what happens if a team gets so many cases that they can't play, whether it's one team or a number of teams in a bubble get so many cases that they can't play. What happens to those teams in that situation? And they have a vacuum.
Left to interpretation.
Yeah, it's left to interpretation. That's why we had to wait for 3 weeks for FIBA to sit down and have a conversation and decide on what they will do for us. So that's why I was telling you that our case is different from Equatorial Guinea, because Equatorial Guinea were given a time lapse on which to arrive. They didn't arrive, so they made it easy for FIBA to make that decision. The reason why it was difficult for FIBA to make the decision on our end, and I feel sorry for you guys on in the last time, because I did another search. Like you said, Willy Tavares was available in Egypt, and they didn't let him into the bubble. No. The rules say that should a team be short-handed on the night before the final meeting, the final technical meeting.
He was there 2 days before.
Yeah, even if it was just injury, even if you got someone injured that you wanted to replace, as long as the player is available before you submit the final list on the night of the technical meeting, that technical meeting where fixtures, jerseys, where everything is shown.
Right.
If the player is available, you are allowed to bring that player in. So I don't understand why they didn't allow you guys.
He was there 2 days before and before the technical meeting. He
2
was
days
there on,
before.
we arrived.
2 days before is good enough.